Howdy, this is your host Lego Brad 86 again. If you can see those boxes, you're a pro. Those are stuff from Christmas that we still haven't taken to storage. Alright, so in this video I wanted to show a few games of different genres from my Super Nintendo collection that are really fun and are good games to start your collection with. So, not necessarily super expensive games, but fun games to play nonetheless, that keep bringing me back for more. So, first off, The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. One of the best RPGs of that genre, at least in America, because we didn't get a lot of the Japanese RPGs that were, in my opinion, a little bit better. But it's a really fun RPG. I enjoy playing it. I got lost in the second dungeon, but at the same time, it's fun trying to figure those puzzles out by yourself without watching YouTube like you had to do in the 90s. Alright. Second game, the Super Star Wars series. Enemies. It requires memorization for the enemies and the puzzles. Trust me, you'll need it. So for Super Star Wars, I keep getting stuck on the outside of the sandcrawler because even though I memorized how most of the platforms act, that last one to get to the top, that's the trickiest one in the game because you don't really have a view that can go down on the game. And so I couldn't see that last one because it was just right out of camera screen. And if you miss that platform, you go all the way down because there's no platforms underneath of it. And if you miss that platform, you are SOL because it takes about half the time frame to get up to that one platform because of the amount of enemies and the amount of doorways you have to defeat. And then on top of that, once you fall all the way back down, you got to destroy all those doorways and gateways that took your health in the first place. So by the first time you get to that last platform towards the top, you're at about half of health, and then by the end of the second try, you're not doing so hot because either your time will run out, and you don't get the time bonus, or your life will run out because you only get 3 lives to start off with, and the first time that you can add a life, an extra life, is the next level, which is when you're fighting the Tusken Raiders after you rescue C-3PO and R2-D2 from the Sandcrawlers, or R2-D2 from the Sandcrawler. So the second level after the Sandcrawler, the 2 Sandcrawler levels. So the next one, in my opinion, my most favorite fighting game on the Super Nintendo. The only game cartridge with a black cart, and that game is Killer Instinct. It's a big tournament fighter, just similar to Street Fighter, except for every single character has its own special move and special combo. Takes minutes to play, hours to master. It is because every character has a different button mash that you have to do on the combos to unlock all the combos for that character. So I play as Orchid most of the time just because who doesn't want a woman that can turn into a tiger and defeat an enemy? Or who doesn't want to play as a raptor chewing and biting and gnashing at the enemy, the blood and the gore? Alright. Third game, one of the few really good ports of Doom, or one of the really good ports of a PC game which I guess since I already said what the game was, you can already tell. One of the only games that come in a red cartridge. Doom. One of the best first-person shooter experiences you'll get on a Super Nintendo cartridge. And it doesn't look super realistic to where, yes, there's a lot of blood and gore, but, you know, you're facing monsters in outer space trying to close a space station. Now, this game I picked up recently after Lent, or the day after Easter, I think. Damaged label, but a very fun action platformer where you are solving puzzles. You're trying to become the biggest star you can be. You are a bat. You are defeating clowns with your flight screw attack. Arrow, the acrobat. Yes, the flying screw attack is one of the most interesting. Well, darn it. Sorry. One of the most interesting games. And sorry, cartridges fell off the desk. We'll get them. Before they break. I don't need no damages. So, and then the best shmups that I've ever played on the Super Nintendo come only on the Super Famicom. All of them are made by Konami. Yes, Konami made some great shoot-em-ups in the 1990s. All of these are between 1993 to 1995. I'm still waiting on the last game of Parodius for the Super Nintendo. But the reason why I ordered it is because I fell in love with this first game, Yoku Parodius, which I got for $40 at my local gaming store. Paid even less on Amazon for these next two games. This is another Parodius game. I can't remember the name because it's difficult to remember all these names. But premise is the same as the other Parodius. You're fighting against various cosmic forces such as big penguins, dancing pandas wearing dresses with a flamingo on top of their head and stuff. Various weird bosses in that game. And the last one is Poppin' Twinbee. Poppin' Twinbee is a cute-em-up shmup where your girlfriend has been taken by vegetable people. And your goal is to save them from the fruits and vegetable people that took your girlfriend away. So you have pineapples on the street shooting at your little mech. You have watermelons flying high in the sky, just trying to take away your health. You have bananas trying to attack you from the ground in stationary positions. You have grapes that take about 8 or 9 hits to take one out. That are basically floating grapes in the sky that every single grape orb on it has the ability to take out opponents. Very fun games, all of them. And the reason why I showed the Japanese games is that they are a lot cheaper than US versions of various types of games. So let me get one more game, and I will show you how cheap this game is compared to the American version. So now this game, Chrono Trigger, for the American version goes for $50 to $150 depending on who you buy it from. This game in Japanese, guess how much I paid for it? $1.99. Less than $2 for the Japanese version and the uncensored version for all to play. And in my opinion, the better version, because who doesn't want to take a mermaid's top off in the fishing minigame? Who doesn't want to talk about lactation in a video game, a female character talking about how to take care of babies? Who doesn't? I don't know about you, but that's a fun game. And I'm sad that we didn't get a US version release that was better suited for the US market, because, you know, apparently Japan has better styles of gaming and better ways of gaming art than the US, because a lot of the US versions of Japanese games were all censored. Sorry if you can hear that. That's Wood from Beat 'em Ups. He's on the television on my PlayStation 3 on the YouTube app. I'm watching all of his videos today. I try and take ideas from other YouTube gaming channels in order to make mine better. And I hope that anybody that has a similar circumstance where they're starting a channel takes from the best. Good artists copy, great artists steal, as Steve Jobs used to say. I don't steal, but I do copy. I find a way to make my videos better by serving up a great amount of gameplay, and I'll be doing gameplay footage of all these various games in a little bit. I've got the US version of Chrono Trigger on my SNES Classic, so I know what it actually says for the US release, and I know some of what the cutscenes say for the Japanese release that are censored in the US, so that I can, you know, tell what is being said. But at the same time, not a lot to be said there. Those are some of the best games that I've played. Now, you can't go wrong with Super Metroid, or if you had to pick between Super Metroid or Legend of Zelda, in my opinion, Legend of Zelda is the better game, but Super Metroid is the more expensive of the two. So I typically go with the more expensive of the two to reduce costs later. I mean, and of course, a lot of the really, really expensive games were released on the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. So if you can get your hand on that, you've got 23 games that are worth playing that are some of the most expensive games. I would say if you got the Super Nintendo Classic for $75, the value is worth over $1,000 based off of what you would have to pay to get the games complete in box or whatever. Over $5,000 for the games, because of course you got Star Fox 2 that wasn't ever released, and then you got Donkey Kong Country, which isn't really an expensive game. You've got Earthbound, which is a super expensive game. $300 for a loose cart, and over $1,000 for a complete in box copy, unless you get it donated to your channel. You got the God, I keep forgetting. The Kirby games were really fun. They can get kind of expensive. $99 for the last Kirby game that came out, which is on the video game console itself. And that's just loose. That's just loose at my local gaming store. That's $99 for that game. That's not cheap. But anyways, I just wanted to make this short little video to show what games to start off your video game collection for your game room. I've only got a limited number of Japanese games. That's why I mixed the Japanese games with the US games. That was like, what, 9 games to get you started. And I mentioned the 10th one because I've got it, but I just didn't pull it out. 6 different genres of gaming for Super Nintendo, and my favorites to start off your gaming collection for the Super Nintendo. Remember, when you buy an American version, by taking the tabs off in the Super Nintendo game console, you can play Super Famicom games, and the Super Famicom games, unlike the US releases, are a lot cheaper and in price, but have no censorship whatsoever, whereas the American releases have a lot of censorship because it was in that time period where censorship was very important to gaming back then. So the Mortal Kombat that you would have gotten in Japan has blood and gore and the fatalities. The one you get in the United States doesn't really have that much blood and gore unless it's a secondary run. Like, I got a secondary run in my case, but the original run, because the U.S. government created that law, it didn't have the first run of the game. Another fun fact is you will have some Super Nintendo games that don't have a rating and some Super Nintendos that do. The reason this is back in 1994, the ESRB was created in the United States. Every other country up to this point had a rating system. The U.S. didn't have a rating system until 1994. So this Arrow the Acrobat copy came before 1994. This Doom came around 1995, so it has a rating system. So if you find an Arrow the Acrobat with a rating system on it, or a rating on it, it would have been released after its initial print run, because only games after 1993 or 94 would have had this the rating system. So yeah. So Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past is one of the other games that I don't have a rating system for because it was an initial release on the system. It was a release within the first year and a half of the system. Which means that since the Super Nintendo came out in 1991 in Japan and other regions, in 1992 in the US, it would have been one of the only US games not rated until after its inception. Now, every single game since 1994 has had a rating on it, and all of the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games that came afterwards or were re-released after that date has a rating system. So if you see a game with a rating or without a rating, it means it either came out before the time of the rating system, and as such, if it's like a Super Nintendo game or a Genesis game, since US Genesis and Super Nintendo games are more expensive without the rating system than with. You might have some gold on your hands, but at the same time, I could be mistaken about that, but I don't try to lie. So, anyways, those are like 10 games to get you started, and all fun games. 4 of them being Japanese, 6 of them being US versions. Showed you the cartridge on the outside. And that's it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be going through the funnest games that I own on each of the consoles that I own to get you started. Whether you're buying it for your kid or for you, there are a lot of fun games for various consoles. So that's it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.